Hi everyone and welcome back. I hope you're doing really well. You're joining me at the third video in my Get Set for Autumn Sewing series, and today I'm going to be talking all about sewing patterns for layering. So I don't know if you've noticed, but layering is going to be a really big thing for autumn winter time this year. So in today's video I'm going to be sharing 10 great sewing patterns that you can use to get the Pinterest inspired layered look. I've tried to pick a variety of different patterns ranging from beginner level to intermediate and advanced, and I really hope there'll be something in this list to inspire your autumn sewing for this upcoming season. So with all that said, let's get into the video, shall we? Because I do have quite a lot of garment types to get through. As always, everything I mention will be linked in the video description, but if I do miss anything or if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So garment type number one is a quilted jacket. Quilted jackets are a full favourite, aren't they? And I think they're so great for layering, so you can throw them on over hoodies and sweaters, or you can even put them underneath something a little bit warmer and heavier to add an extra layer. The Grey 9 Tamarack jacket is a great pattern for a quilted jacket, and it does come with a few different options, but I would actually be tempted to choose a firm favourite jacket pattern that I already own and just replace the pattern pieces with a quilted fabric instead. In terms of fabric types, I think cottons and flannels are probably the most traditional fabrics that you would use for a quilted jacket, and you can make the jacket warmer or cooler depending on the weight of the wadding that you use for your quilting. I would say this project is probably more on the intermediate level in terms of sewing experience, particularly if you are going to be making the Tamarack jacket, because it does include welt pockets. But there are lots more beginner friendly jacket patterns. You already know how much I love the Ilford jacket, and I think that is a really great beginner friendly pattern. So you could use something like that you perhaps already have in your own pattern library and just replace the pattern pieces with a quilted fabric instead. Of course, if you don't fancy doing the quilting yourself, you can buy pre-quilted fabrics, which are much easier to use and quicker, of course. But that would be the speedy route to go down if you do want to save some time. But I personally think it would be really fun to have a go at quilting a jacket like this myself, and I really want to have a go at one this autumn if time allows. Number two is a smock style dress. Smock dresses are great for layering, aren't they? So of course you can wear them on their own and just add a cardigan or a sweater or a jacket if you are feeling a little bit chilly, but I think smock dresses are also great for layering with long sleeve t-shirts or short sleeve t-shirts, or even polo or turtlenecks underneath too. And of course, as we go into winter, it's always really nice to add tights and boots to a dress, isn't it? It's probably one of my favourite autumn winter looks. Sewing pattern I've chosen for this garment is the Indigo dress by Tilly and the Buttons, which I have made some time ago, and I'm thinking that maybe I need to revisit this pattern for this autumn time. So you could sew this pattern from a variety of different fabric types depending on the sort of weight that you want to go for. You can go light and floaty with a cotton or a viscose and layer something warmer underneath, or you could go for a more warm and heavier weight fabric like a baby cord or even a light wool. The Indigo pattern is perfect for confident beginners, so if you are a beginner looking to add to your sewing skills, this would be a great one for you. And as we all know, Tilly and the Buttons patterns are great at holding your hand the whole way through, aren't they? They're really good if you are feeling a little bit nervous. Garment type number three is a simple cardigan. So cardigans are great for autumn time, aren't they? Because you can just throw them over whatever you're wearing, over t-shirts, vests, camis, dresses, long sleeve t-shirts. They're just really versatile. So I have never actually sewn a cardigan yet. Because I am a knitter, I tend to knit a cardigan if I am going to be adding a cardigan to my handmade wardrobe. But if you aren't a knitter or you just fancy a more speedy project, then there are some great patterns for cardigans out there. A couple of really great cardigan sewing patterns are the Blackwood cardigan by Helen's Closet. This one is super simple and it looks as though it would be very quick and easy to sew up. It doesn't have any fastenings. It's one of those kind of edge to edge type cardigans, so it would be great for beginners as well. Use a stable knit if you're feeling a little bit nervous about sewing with knits, or something a little bit more flowy and drapey if you're more confident. Another great cardigan pattern is the Marlowe by True Bias. I love the look of this one. So similar to the Blackwood cardigan, you can sew this one either cropped or in a longer length, and I love the boxy shape of this one and the big buttons as well. As I say, both of these patterns are confident beginner friendly and they work really nicely in either light or medium weight knits. Number four is a duster style jacket. I think these kind of jackets are great for just throwing on. It's just a little bit more relaxed, isn't it, than a big winter coat. And because there aren't really any fastenings or anything in a duster jacket, this kind of pattern is much more beginner friendly as well. So my sewing pattern for this garment is the Cambria Duster by Friday Pattern Company. I'm not sure why this pattern hasn't caught my eye before now, because I think it just looks so stylish the way they have it in the pattern image. And I love how it can be sewn from so many different fabrics, and you can also sew it from either a woven or a knit fabric too, which is a really great way to get lots of different looks out of one sewing pattern. So you could sew a light, more drapey version just to wear over jeans and a t-shirt or a vest or something, or you could sew from a boucle or a wool for maximum coziness. So as I said, dusters don't generally have any fastenings to them, but I think if you wanted to bring it in and just add a little bit of extra warmth, perhaps if you were making a more heavyweight version, it would be really nice and easy to whip up a belt that you could just wrap around the middle to cinch it in and give a little bit more shape and additional warmth as well. Number 5 is a button-up shirt. I absolutely love wearing shirts as layering pieces. I tend to layer mine over cami tops and t-shirts when it's not too cold and I just want an additional layer. But they're also really great for wearing underneath cardigans and sweaters and pullovers as it does get cooler. And I really actually like that look as well. So I personally have 2 favourite shirt patterns. One of them is the Grain Line Archer button-up shirt. This one I would say is a little bit more fitted and a little bit more tailored than my other favourite shirt pattern, and I would probably wear this more on its own or even underneath something because it's a little bit more sort of lightweight and it's not too bulky for wearing underneath things. And as you probably all know, my second favourite shirt pattern is the Logan Shacket, and that's what I'm wearing today. The Logan Shacket is slightly more boxy and oversized, and it can be worn as a shirt, as I'm wearing it today as an overshirt, or you can actually sew it as an outerwear piece as well. The Logan, I would say, is better if you are more on the confident beginner side of your sewing because it doesn't include some of the more tailored aspects that you might find in shirt making, such as a yoke finish with a burrito method and sleeve plackets. It's a great pattern to start with if you are wanting to get into shirt making. Garment type number 6 is a zip-up hoodie. I think a zip-up hoodie is an essential in anyone's wardrobe. They're just so handy to have, aren't they? Especially if you're like me and spend a lot of your life walking the dog. So of course you can wear these over t-shirts, vests and long sleeve tops, but you can also wear them underneath lighter weight outerwear pieces, for example your quilted jacket or even your shacket. Aside from being practical though, hoodies do seem to be becoming an outfit feature of their own, either draped over shoulders or tied around a waist, just to add a little bit of colour and texture to an outfit, and obviously something extra to throw on if you are feeling really cold. So the sewing pattern I've chosen for this layering wardrobe essential is the Wardrobe by Me Ziggy Zipper Hoodie. I really liked how this had a couple of different options to sew. So it has drop shoulders, the essential hood, zipper front and kangaroo pockets, and you can make it either with or without sleeves. Of course with sleeves it's always going to be warmer, but I think without sleeves is another great way to layer up because you can wear it again underneath a lightweight outer piece. You could sew this one from a fleeceback sweatshirt fabric or a French terry if you want something a little bit lighter. And I would say the sewing level for this one is probably advanced beginner to intermediate level because of the zip and the hood. Number 7 is a turtleneck top. Turtlenecks I think are always a great thing to have in your wardrobe because they're such an easy layering piece. So you could wear a turtleneck top under many of the garments that I've mentioned so far in this video. I think they're so good for layering under dresses, so smock dresses, pinafore dresses. You can wear them with mini skirts and tights and boots with a nice cozy warm knit over the top, or you can even wear them underneath jumpers and sweaters for maximum coziness. I think for this kind of top you probably want to use a really nice fine knit, something that's quite drapey and possibly even clingy, particularly if you're going to be wearing it underneath things. So I would suggest maybe a fine knit fabric or even a viscose or bamboo jersey. You want something that's going to feel really nice and comfortable close to your skin because you're going to be wearing quite a lot on top of this. It might be a good idea to sew one in a few different neutral colours that you can wear underneath brighter and more patterned things, and perhaps a patterned one that you can wear underneath plainer garments. I have 2 patterns for a turtleneck top that I know are really popular in the sewing community. The first one is the Freya top by Tilly and the Buttons. The other one is the True Bias Nico top, and I've heard really great things about this one. I love the Nico pattern because there are so many different options to it. You can sew your long sleeve version, a short sleeve version, even a sleeveless this top, or you can even make a dress too. I think this would be a really great confident beginner project, particularly if you're using the Tilly and the Buttons pattern, because the pattern does come from one of her more beginner friendly pattern books. Number 8 is a midi or maxi length slip dress. A slip dress is a really great thing to have in your wardrobe, particularly maybe if you tend to live a more smarter lifestyle. Maybe you work in an office, or maybe you go out to lots of events and parties and dinners and things. I think slip dresses look great dressed up with sandals, but they also look really nice worn casually with trainers and pumps as well. So of course slip dresses look great on their own, but as we go into the colder months they also work really nicely layered with t-shirts and long sleeve tops, and again turtle and polo necks underneath them. You could add a shirt over the top for a casual, more layered look, or even a bomber or a leather jacket if you want to be right on trend. What I also love about slip dresses is that you can add a sweatshirt or a sweater or a jumper over the top, and it almost looks as though you're wearing a skirt rather than a dress. So you get two different looks for the same garment essentially. The two patterns I have for this garment type are the Tessuti Patterns Sadie slip dress and the ever popular Sicily slip dress by Sewing Maison. I would say this garment type could be suitable for a confident beginner. They are quite a simple thing to sew. The only thing is that slip dresses are generally cut on the bias, so that just can make the whole sewing process slightly more tricky, especially if you are going to be using a drapey and slippery fabric. Number 9 is a long coat or mac. I've talked quite a lot about trench coats on this channel, so I've tried to pick something a little bit different for today's pattern roundup. And this time I've gone for this more straight mac style coat, which I seem to be seeing quite a lot around on the high street for this season. So rather than your trench coat, these mac style coats are a lot simpler and have a lot less detail in them, but I think they look great layered over other garments like shirts and jumpers and even sweatshirts and hoodies for a more casual look. And this type of coat would be slightly lighter than perhaps your big heavy winter coat would be, so I think it would make a really lovely transitional style coat to take you from the sort of milder weather into the colder months. The first pattern I have for this look is the Assembly Line car coat. I think this one looks right on trend and it really fits the bill perfectly, especially in the colours that they've sewn it up for in the pattern image. It really looks quite designer, doesn't it? I like the look of this one. The second is Butterick 6385 View A. I thought this one again really looked very similar to some of the coats that are around on the high street. Nice and simple and classic for wearing over the top of lots of different other things. The sewing level for this kind of garment I would say is probably more on the intermediate side, because there is again a little bit of meaty sewing to get your teeth into. A lot of these patterns do have welt pockets, which is probably one of the more difficult pocket techniques to sew, and of course you'd need to deal with a collar and a lining too. But if you are a confident beginner feeling extremely confident, then by all means do give it a go. Garment type number 10 is actually an accessory, and I've gone for a scarf because scarves are big for this autumn winter season, and they're around in so many different styles as well. Again, I'm going to say because I am a knitter, I always tend to knit scarves rather than sew them, but there are some great sewing patterns for scarves around if you do fancy sewing one up, and of course there are really great use for fabric scraps as well. This would be a really great beginner sewing project as well, and you could just have some good fun with it. So of course scarves are always really great for layering, aren't they? You can just pop one in your bag if they're not too heavy and pull it out if you do feel a little bit chilly. But not only on a practical level, scarves always look great for adding colour and texture to an outfit whilst keeping you warm at the same time. I found a really great quilted scarf pattern from Matchy Matchy Sewing Club called the Butter Quilt Scarf. I thought this one looked such fun to sew, and it would be a great way to have a go at patchwork and quilting. And look how cozy this would be. I think it would be like wearing an actual quilt. Because of the patchwork nature of this one, again, a great way to use up some of your fabric scraps perhaps, and you could also just have it lying around the house if you're ever feeling chilly at home. I also found this great tutorial for how to make a cowl scarf on YouTube too, so I thought this would be a really good one if you just want to have a go at sewing a perhaps a little bit more understated, minimal looking scarf that you can wear underneath jumpers and jackets, just for a little bit of added warmth and colour. So that brings me to the end of my list of 10 patterns, but before I go I just want to share a few tips and tricks and things to think about if you are sewing particularly with layering in mind. So when picking the size or style of your garment, you might want to think about the fit and ease of whatever it is you're planning to sew. If you are planning to wear a garment over things, for example a jacket or a more outerwear style garment, then consider perhaps going up a size in order to accommodate for a more roomy, bulky sweater underneath. I think it's always really good to have a look at the finished garment measurements when you're considering this kind of possible alteration, because that will give you the best idea of the amount of ease that's in a sewing pattern rather than going on body measurements alone. Another thing you might want to consider is fabric weight. So if you are thinking about sewing pieces specifically for layering, you don't necessarily want to go too heavyweight with your fabric. So for example, with polo neck tops and long sleeve t-shirts, I think it's always best to go for something that's cozy but not necessarily too heavy. For example, a fine knit or even a nice bamboo jersey, something that's going to feel nice against your skin when you're wearing something heavier over the top. Think about your necklines when you're sewing garments for layering. So you might want to have a few different neckline options in your layering pieces. Wearing a higher turtle style or polo neck is always good to wear with a lower neck style smock dress, for example, or an open necked shirt. You wouldn't necessarily want to wear a high polo neck with a high neck jumper. Obviously today we've talked about scarves as well, so if you are sewing open neck garments and things that will open up around your neck, v-necks, shirts and things like that, that is a great way to then add a scarf to cover your neck slightly and just give you a little bit more warmth. And the other thing you might want to consider is sleeve style. So there are lots of different sleeve styles out there, of course. There are raglan, drop shoulder, set-in sleeves, so you might want to think about not having too many of the same types of sleeve styles in your layering wardrobe. Wearing a set-in sleeve underneath a raglan style layering piece is always going to work better than having two set-in sleeve style garments on top of each other, causing bulk in the same area. Again, it's just all about balancing out the weights of different garments and feeling as comfortable as possible in all of your different cozy layers. So I think that brings me to the end of today's video. I really hope these pattern picks do inspire you for your autumn sewing this season. Let me know if there's anything in here that you have already sewn, or if there's anything that you are planning to sew for autumn time. I'd love to know. Please do let me know as well if there's anything that you would add to this list. Do you have a favourite layering pattern that you come back to time and again, or is there any kind of garment type that you think is an essential in your layering wardrobe that I've perhaps missed in today's video? If you have enjoyed today's video, please do give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more sewing videos like this. This is the third video in my Get Set for Autumn Sewing series, and I will be putting out one final video in this series next Sunday, so make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss out on that. You can also follow me over on Instagram if you want to at Made by Sally Gauntlet, and I also have an extra Patreon sewing community where I share additional videos and tutorials and tips and tricks and behind the scenes as well, so you can pop over and follow me there too, and I'd love to have you join that group. So thanks again for watching everyone, take care, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!